Very disturbing reporting coming to light here from Greg Palast about the 2016 presidential election here in the U.S. Link it in the description box. 1,913,369 ballots thrown away. It's official. 1,913,369 ballots were cast but never counted in the 2016 presidential race. That's from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. Greg Palast, a really good investigative journalist, does a lot of stuff around voting rights, voter suppression, that type of thing. Not just anyone's ballots get tossed in the electoral dumpster. The U.S. Civil Rights Commission took a look at Florida's throwaway pile and calculated that your chance of having your vote simply go uncounted, spoiled, is 900% higher if you're black than you're white, which obviously has been kind of a playbook by the Republicans and conservatives in power to try to disenfranchise as many people of color as possible from the voting booth because they tend to vote Democrat more often than not. Trump's call for an army of 50,000 vigilantes is laughable. Some schmuck in a Hawaiian shirt and MAGA cap won't scare off the voters of color, but 50,000 challengers challenging every single ballot for Biden, that could succeed. It did for Trump in Michigan in 2016. Here's how Michigan and so the presidency was stolen 4 years ago. As mail-in ballots are far easier to challenge than in-person votes, Trump's trolls could pull off another win by challenging even more than 2 million successfully blocked in the last election. Wow. The little chapter from How Trump Stole 2020 tells you how they did it in 2016 and can do it again in 2020. Michigan, Michigas. Here's what you know. In 2016, Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes, officially. Here's what you don't know. 75,355 ballots were never counted. That's official too. Just spoilage. That is ballots that were for some technical reason untallied. But not just anyone's vote spoiled. Most of these votes vanished were cast in Detroit, where only 1 in 10 city residents are white. Motown, not exactly Trumpville. Again, another form of voter suppression, getting these votes thrown out because they would disproportionately benefit the Democratic candidate in this point. Friends, we got so close to the Times bestseller. Okay, that's just his ad. Exit polls showed Clinton won Michigan, and now pollsters were apologizing for their mistake. I didn't buy it. If you counted those ballots in the dumpsters in Detroit, Clinton would have won. And if this pattern had held in the other 2 states, exit polls that reported she won, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, Clinton should have won the Electoral College. I'm not sure what's wrong with me. The election was over. Hillary and hubby had moved on to lucrative book contracts, 6-figure speaking gigs, and their charity. I like that. Instant quotes. Trump was triumphant and the country too had moved on. But it bothered me. These 75,355 ballots, no one counted in Michigan. The usual outlets for my investigations, like Rolling Stone, weren't bothered either. They had moved on too. So I borrowed a few more bucks from my pension plan, begged my reader for some spare change, and bought a ticket to Detroit. To do this investigation, I needed a break, and I got it. A surprise call from Jill Stein, the Green Party presidential candidate. She offered me a scoop. Stein was ready to raise $9 million for recounts in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan to prove that Trump lost. That is, if you counted all the votes in those states, she could literally overturn Trump's election. I broke the story. She raised $9 million in days, and the recount began. But recount is the wrong word. In Michigan, the funds were meant for counting those 75,355 ballots that were never counted in the first place. In Michigan, you vote on paper ballots, which you shove into a scanner to get counted. But a funny thing happened in Detroit. 87 machines broke down. They could not read the ballots. Once in Detroit, I met with information specialist Carlos Garcia. He told me that his precinct scanner was already busted when he arrived at the opening of voting at 7 a.m. He finally fixed it at 9:30. He stayed and saw that those ballots cast during the morning voting rush, while the machine was still broken, were never run through the scanner, never recorded. That non-count was repeated throughout the city. It was easy to catch, because the number of ballots in the broken machines did not match the total of ballots these machines said it counted. But ready for this? The Republican Attorney General ruled that if the number of physical ballots did not match the scanner count, these precincts could not be recounted. Get that? The precincts with the missing counts, ones you'd want to review, were barred from the recount. Pretty fucking sketchy, right? Occupied territories. One effed up machine in a precinct is bad luck. No big deal, but 87 broken machines. 87 machines not counting thousands of ballots is a very big deal. An electoral crime wave, a stolen election. And they knew it. Republican state officials knew before Election Day that Detroit's scanning machines were already busted, dysfunctional, or likely not to survive the day. Well, before November 2016, the Detroit City Clerk, Janice Winfrey, pleaded to fund her budget to replace the bad ballot scanners, but there was a problem. Detroit was bankrupt, and every penny spent had to be approved by managers, overlords appointed by the Republican Governor Rick Snyder. In 2016, Detroit won his occupied territory, as was Flint, Michigan. In Flint, the state-appointed managers cut the budget for the water system and poisoned Flint's kids with lead. The stories of Detroit scanners and Flint water supply go together. If you're going to poison someone's children, you better take away their right to vote against the poisoning. Michigan ballot count was Jim Crowed, bad scanners, and Trump was triumphant, but Jill Stein was going to spoil the celebration. Her recount would pay for an extraordinary machine that could read all of those uncounted ballots, the human eyeball. But something funny was happening at the government recount centers. Whistleblower. Late November in Michigan sucks. From a Hampton Inn on a truck route north of the city, it was a long slog through the dirty slush and wet snow to meet a whistleblower at a Roadhouse bar and a couple of stiff drinks to get her loosened up to talk without a stutter of fear on camera. Sue told me she faced retribution in a white suburb, even from in-laws who were not happy about her blowing the whistle. Sue is a computer programmer who thought it'd be interesting and just a good idea to do volunteer recount operation in the county building. She didn't even have a strong preference in the election. What she experienced disturbed her enormously. We saw a lot of ballots that weren't originally counted because those don't scan in the machine, because the machine was broken and it wasn't fixed till 9:30, as we saw. It's happened 87 times in Detroit. Ballot reviewers were adding previously uncounted ballots to the Clinton column, and Trump operatives were challenging every Clinton vote and every decision for Clinton. They are creating chaos and slowing up the process and making up nonsense rules to disqualify ballots. At the same time, the Democratic Party had brought in observers who refused to take part in the ballot count nor even bother to get in the way of the GOP obstructors. Despite all the obstruction, it's clear that if the count went ahead unimpeded, Trump would lose Michigan, so Trump did the only thing he could do, stop the count. Wow. Okay, so that's just part of the story, and it looks like you got to get the rest, how Trump stole 2020, but damn, 2 million, almost 2 million votes not counted, 75,000 in Michigan alone. And in Florida, like it said, you're over 9,000 times more likely to have your vote spoiled or uncounted if you're black than you're white. And Trump won Michigan by a little bit over 10,000. 75,000 votes were uncounted. But not just anyone's votes were spoiled. Most of those votes cast in Detroit were only 1 in 10 residents were white. Motown, not exactly Trumpville. So more than likely, would have won, or Clinton would have won Michigan, Florida. Yeah. If you counted those ballots in the dumpster in Detroit, Clinton would have won. The pattern held in the other two states. She would have won Wisconsin and Pennsylvania in the Electoral College. Another form of voter suppression is obviously not having your vote counted because you tend to be from a Democratic district or you are a person of color who would more than likely would support the Democratic Party over that time over Donald Trump. Again, we don't live, there's no functioning democracy in the U.S. if there really has been at any point. This is just another example of that, and this kind of shit, frankly, could happen again in the 2020 election. Peace. So.